The empty tomb has never been enough. The empty tomb has never been enough. Allow me to introduce you to Joanna. Joanna was one of the ladies who was very instrumental in the ministry of Jesus. Luke tells us that these women bankrolled Jesus' work as he traveled back and forth and did his work both in Galilee and Jerusalem. Joanna was married to the steward of Herod Antipas. Her husband's name was Chusa. And so perhaps she was generous and had means to do so. Joanna was also present on the day that Jesus was crucified. Luke tells us that she and several of the women were not too far from the cross of Christ when he died and was laid in the tomb. So she went home with the rest of the women and the other disciples, I suppose, and they waited. Because it was Sabbath day, couldn't do much, not supposed to work, they waited. And early on Sunday morning, they take spices to the tomb to finish the burial process. Joanna was one of those women. And there we are told that the stone was rolled away. The women are disturbed, very worried. They go in and they find the tomb empty. And all of a sudden, two men, later on we find out are angels, appear. And they ask these women a very important question while they're scared out of their lives. Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Don't you remember? He told you that he was to be betrayed and handed over to sinners, and that he would be killed, and that on the third day he will rise again. Don't you remember? And Luke tells us, then they remembered. They remembered. I'm not quite sure what remembering did for them, but at least something was happening. They left the tomb and they went back to what we know to be the upper room to tell the rest of the disciples. We went to the tomb this morning and, well, it's empty. And while we were there, two angels appeared, and they tell us that Jesus is no longer dead. They remembered. I have imagined perhaps how it may have felt for them in that place of remembrance. I don't know if they yet believed that Jesus had risen from the dead. I seriously doubt it. Because if they believed, I would expect that they'll be doing cartwheels. I would expect that they'll be excited, they'll be happy. They would run back and they would declare, but no, they went back and just reported to the other 11. Peter went back, and the empty tomb has never been enough. It has never been enough. Something else has to happen. That the tomb of Jesus is empty, well, that could be explained in lots of different ways. Something else has to happen. Luke tells us that they remembered. What did they remember? They remembered what Jesus had taught them. They remembered what it means to be a neighbor. They remembered the life that he lived. They remembered that this was a guy who stood somewhere and talked about the kingdom of God being among us. And that the blind can see, and the deaf are being raised to life, lepers are being cleansed. This was good news to the poor. They remembered. And the thing about Jesus that made him a little difficult to deal with is that he didn't just talk. After he said stuff like that, he would go out and actually do things. He would stretch his hand and open the eyes of the blind. And remember the story about Lazarus who was dead and was made alive again. And things were happening. It wasn't just the kingdom of God someday might get here, hold on until heaven by and by. There is heaven for sure, yes, but Jesus was saying something about the present. The kingdom of God has come. I'm here to kickstart it. Something is happening right now. I have wondered what the kingdom of God among us might sound like today. What might it look like today? Could it be health care and access to those who need it? For us to stop saying it is too expensive, could that begin to look like the kingdom among us? Could it be like, say, food for children at school so they could actually learn? Could that be like the kingdom of God among us? Could it be, say, protection against predatory lending? You did know, don't you, that here in Kansas, predatory lending up to 500% is legal? You know that. 497%, excuse me, not quite 500. Could it be paying livable wages to those who are working so that ends might meet? What I'm saying is that when Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven, whatever he meant, he also meant right now. It included right now. So Easter says something to us. Easter says that maybe hope did not die when Jesus was crucified. Maybe hope did not die. Maybe you and I are being called to remember what Jesus taught. And the reality of the life of Jesus then calls us forward into helping enact the kingdom of God, the reign of God. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We must remember. Because sometimes in the midst of our trauma, our disappointment, our sadness, our grief, I don't mind admitting it to you, sometimes I forget. I'm just blown away. I just forget. Because there's so much heaviness, so much sadness, so much hopelessness. Imagine what it was like for these women. They just forgot. All they could think about was, this terrible thing that had happened. And Easter says, remember. Easter says, remember. Because the remembering brings us to a place of wondering. I wonder perhaps if God isn't up to something new among us. I wonder perhaps if I might not be part of what new thing God is doing. And sometimes we have to look back to see the hand of God. Some of us have to look in the rear view mirror because sometimes when God shows up, we are too distracted, we are too busy, we are too distraught to actually notice it. But if you will stop and look in the rear view mirror and consider what has happened, you might see the hand of God at work. Remember. How might we remember? I invite you to go back to the text. The Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Mark, Luke, and John. I invite you to remember again what the teaching of Jesus is. Remember it. And then begin to look for encounters with the risen Lord. Begin to look. If the Lord is alive, well, where? Where is the Lord showing up? Talk with others. Check with them. Hey, I'm seeing this. Are you seeing the same thing? Check. Be in conversation. Encourage one another. The empty tomb has never been enough. No, we have to remember what he taught us. We have to begin to wonder what it all meant. And we have to begin to look for those divine encounters. And those encounters then convince us to be part of what God is doing. Otherwise, it's just a story of ancient Palestine. And what does it have to do with us? The empty tomb has never been enough.